Join us today for an action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball, where we're going to help you find the next Spencer Strider in round 6.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes to the channel and gives you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most importantly, guys, join us on the Subtext platform. If you're just getting back into fantasy baseball and you join us on Subtext, Matt and I already have all of our rankings out on there. We're going to throw tier-based rankings into our, regular rankings already within the next maybe month or so. We have an update coming out probably today. As you're listening to this, the update might already be out there with our rankings, maybe next couple of days. We're going to have bust breakout sleepers. You're going to have text messages, alerts right to your phone. So you're going to be the first to get all of these notifications. And if you have keeper or dynasty questions, that's the spot to find us to ask us those questions. But guys, real quick, before we get into today's episode, today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com and use the code locked on to get $20 off your order. That's JASE medical.com.
All right. And today we have a good one for you guys. We have an excellent episode. We're talking about round 6. And the reason why I talk about round 6 is there's about 7 to 9 pitchers, starting pitchers, that we would probably draft as and feel comfortable with, walking away with 1 or 2 of them. And we're pissed that they're all in one round. And there's a few that we'd even feel comfortable walking away as our SP1. So, we'll go through it. Obviously, there's going to be ebbs and flows of ADP as we get closer to draft season and whatnot. But currently today, if you're drafting today, this is a great review of who you can possibly scoop up in round 6 and, take advantage of ADP and take advantage of, the earlier bats that you could scoop up and still walk away with an SP1 in our opinion. So let's get into it. Let's talk about our first pitcher here. Let's talk about Framber Valdez. My dude had an all right season, was nothing like 2022. In terms of, my guy did not have a sub-3 ERA. He ended up finishing with a 3.45 ERA, which still isn't bad, don't get me wrong, by any means. Pitched 198 innings, had 200 strikeouts, and had a whip of 1.12. It was a great season. It just wasn't 2022. Wasn't 2021 either, where he had a low 3 ERA. It kind of climbed this year, but I foresee him, returning to that, mid-20s, 3.25 ERA next year. I think is well in the realm of possibilities. He's not one of the guys I'm thinking of when it comes to, my pitcher 1, but he's not too far off right now. I have Framber Valdez as 23, which is more of a low-end pitcher 2. But you know what? He's coming off the board right now as, let's see here, Framber Valdez come aboard at pick 63. So, he's your pitcher 2, and a solid SP2 at that point. Obviously the guys below him is guys I'm going to target. It's probably about 2 or 3. I'll be like, okay, there might be SP1. I'm chilling. I'm smiling actually. But Framber Valdez is solid pick in this round, and the cluster is just outrageous. And if you join us on Subtext, we'll even shoot you out the rankings.
Yeah, Matt, we're pretty much on the same boat here when it comes to this nice little cluster of pitchers that are currently going off the board. According to NFBC ADP, that's a mouthful. This little cluster that's going off the board, round 6. I want at least one of these guys, right? I need to walk away with at least one of these starting pitchers. They're a bunch of great names. Framber Valdez, as Matt mentioned, is up first. And Matt, you broke him down really well. He's kind of just a reliable guy, right? If you went super risky, if you went with like a Tyler Glass now as your SP1, and then you're looking to tap back in with an SP2, I think of Valdez as your guy. He's going to throw a lot of innings. He's done it the last 2 seasons consistently. Goes deep into games, gets you a lot of quality starts. Isn't a strikeout maestro, but he's always hovering right around that K per 9, and the whip is just decent. Not blowing you away, but definitely a rotation stabilizer. That is Framber Valdez. But let's move on to one of more of my favorite targets, and I think the asking price couldn't be any better. The reigning NL Cy Young Award winner. Let's talk about Blake Snell. I think Blake Snell's getting a lot of disrespect. He's coming off the board. Once again, pretty much tied with Framber Valdez, going off the board at pick 63, almost pick 64 for Blake Snell. And if we're getting him in round 6, and this is a guy I potentially could maybe get as your SP2, I'm loving it. My Matt and I's rankings are more geared towards roto and head-to-head categories leagues. I have Blake Snell as my as I'm actually looking at my rankings from last year. Matt and I were having a little discussion off air, but I have Blake Snell as my SP6, right? So I think if you can get Blake Snell as your SP2 this year, you're winning in every single category. Maybe in points leagues, that's going to differ a little bit. Maybe his landing spot is going to make Blake Snell differ a little bit. But this guy's just a strikeout machine. The control even looked a little bit better down the stretch. So, if you're going to get a Blake Snell that's going to get you an under 1-2 whip, with massive strikeouts, 180 innings last year, 234 strikeouts. I don't think the ERA is going to live, under 3, but if it's a low 3s ERA, even if Blake Snell goes up a whole run, even if he goes up to where his FIP is, once again, fielding independent pitching, ERA indicator, a 3.44. Even if you get Blake Snell, 3.44 ERA, 180 innings, 234 strikeouts, and a 1.19 whip, a 1.18 whip, excuse me, you're still making out as your SP2 with Blake Snell, and we know the upside. We saw it this past season. I think Blake Snell can put up very, very similar numbers to what he did this year, except the ERA will probably come up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously his ERA is unsustainable, but I mean, I still think he has a low ERA, like you said. I think even lower than his FIP, and it's
that's what I'm saying.
Probably like a 310 if I'm really being honest. And depending on the landing spot, as long as he doesn't end up in like Cincinnati, I think his CRA is safe to say that's where it's going to be. I love Blake Snell. I believe I have him as SP5 for me as well. Yeah. I'm ready to rock. Like, I feel like, maybe this ADP is reflecting, a bad landing spot or an undetermined risky pick because you don't know where he's going to land. And this may rise.
There's a little tease. We'll speak more about that with the guy coming up later. Something similar happened.
Yeah, I mean, we could see him jump a round or 2, and I still would be okay with it. But right now, if you're doing a draft today, it's probably the best time to scoop up Blake Snell, especially in early NFBC drafts and such, because this is an incredible value. It's probably going to be the cheapest you're going to get him, but if it stays where it is right now, God, we're gonna have so much fun. We're gonna be talking about just pretty much just taking all bats, going around, maybe a round and a half early, and scooping up Blake Snell just because you just got 4 to 5 stellar bats the couple of rounds before. But before we move on and we talk about all the rest of these wonderful arms going so cheap in this round, we have a sponsor for you.
And guys, once again, we are talking about Jace Medical. I know we come to sports to escape from some of the crazy realities of real life, but can we just talk about, preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade, guys. This is getting real scary. I can't imagine if, like someone in my family or one of my loved ones, really needed something while we're having a supply chain issue like this. And, these life-saving drugs were actually kept from them when we needed them the most. Thankfully, we'll be okay because of Jace Medical. The Jace case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics used to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. Visit jacemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jacemedical.com and use the code locked on to get $20 off your order. And guys, we just want to take a second here to talk to you guys about Subtext again. Right now, I think is the perfect time of year to join us on the Subtext platform. Once again, if you weren't listening at the top, you're getting text message alerts right to your phone. So you're going to be on top of stuff this time of year when Matt and I are releasing all of our ranking updates. As I mentioned, we're going to put tiers into our rankings updates. Just so much more at the, if you guys want to take that time to check us out on that platform, trust me, it will be worth every cent. Matt, anything else to add there as we're talking about Subtext real quick?
I mean, quite honestly, like you look at it and you go, okay, how am I going to get ready for my drafts? And honestly, if you're a fan of the show, you kind of want to hop in and just, for a minimal cost, get our rankings and kind of understand what our thought process is and take advantage of your competition not having our rankings. So please sign up for the Subtext, win your leagues right there. But
Yeah,
anyway, let's move on. We ended it off with Blake Snell, which Dom made great points. I just chimed in, but I want to talk about Max Fried. Somebody was talking about him in the comment columns of one of our videos recently, and kind of wanted to say, hey, like, we need to talk about him a little bit. And you know what? There's a whole lot of like discrepancy of where should I actually draft him. He's going at what pick? If I'm not mistaken here, 66, which is a decent price for Fried, but I don't know if I'm paying it right off the bat. The dude just wasn't healthy last year. Really wasn't like somebody that can really count on all through and through. But at the same time, he posted 21 and 22 of really solid years. And even when he returned finally, he did put up a good season and finished out the end of the season. He had 77 innings pitched. He had 80 Ks. He had a 2.55 ERA with a 1.13 whip. Along with that, his FIP was a 3.14. So he was pitching on par, about a half a run above where he was pitching. But ultimately, I mean, Fried is going to have a lot of opportunities to not only perform well with the Braves and have an excellent defense behind him, but on top of that, have a lot of win opportunities, which you can't really say about too many pitchers that are going to have the opportunity to win games. To have a team that's going to be able to, drive up runs and put them in a position to be successful. Fried is one of those pitchers. So I don't know if he's one of my favorites in this, like what I'm going to call a cluster of pitchers that are pretty stellar. Fried is definitely up there and above some of them, like later in the episode, there's about 3 guys that I'd probably say I'd draft him over them. But at the same time, Fried is not my favorite. I'd probably draft him below our next 2 guys, funny enough, and also below the Blake Snell as well. Like literally, it'll probably go Blake Snell, the second guy we're going to talk about after Fried, then the guy after Fried, and then Max Fried. So, but still a solid 4 in this round. So, like, quite honestly, the dude can do a lot of damage for you and be very valuable and an insane SP2, in my opinion.
Matt, did you say what you have him ranked?
I did not. Let me throw that out there. So right now I have Max Fried at 14.
Okay. See, Max Fried has been like an interesting case for me this offseason. I think I started off Max Fried as high as like almost like 12 in my SP rankings. And then I've just slowly been moving him down consistently since then. And it's not really due to like Max Fried not being good. It's just kind of you look at the rest of the guys and what they do. And I don't think Max Fried has the upside anymore. He's going to be 30 years old this year. I think when we say the name Max Fried, he's been around so long. But in my head anyway, I'm still thinking he's younger than he really is. So I think Max Fried is going to have a great ERA. He's not going to give you that K per 9. The whip will definitely be, serviceable, definitely be a good whip from Max Fried, and the win should be solid on that Braves team. But, he's not, there's not that, I don't think there's the K per 9 upside. I don't think we're going to see something from Fried that we haven't seen yet. So I think this is a fair asking price. I think he's once again a rotation stabilizer, like once again a great pair with a Tyler Glass now, or if you took a Scooble, a round or two earlier, he pairs well with a guy like that. And that's just what Max Fried is. And, we're going to talk about somebody very similar to him, later. And I have them ranked back to back in my rankings. And that's, Logan Webb. But Matt, I don't know if I'm going to tee it up and you want to talk about your boy Logan Webb, now. But I think those two guys are very, very similar. I have Fried 17 and Webb at 18. Neither one of them really a K per 9 guy. Both going to have good ERAs. Both going to have good whips. And I think the difference why I have Fried one higher is just better team, going to have opportunity for more wins.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, but I think, yeah, why not? Let's talk about
hop into Webb. Hop into Webb.
All right, we're gonna skip one, and honestly, like,
and then good. Let me pass the other guy back to me because I have a good way to talk about it.
Yeah, like Webb is definitely somebody I'm drafting over Fried in all scenarios.
Okay.
Way I look at Webb is is pitching in San Francisco for half of his starts. Like ultimately, like that is one of the key factors for it. He's going to be a serious stabilizer also too. I'm just a big fan. I think that there is another level to his game. I think he can get it up to a K per 9. He didn't fall too far short of it. Maybe 22 strikeouts under a K per 9. So, and I'm talking like, 216 innings to 194 strikeouts. So like, it's really not that far off. And that's a lot of strikeouts, along with the fact he's able to, sustain runs and have a 3.25 ERA and have a low whip of 107. Like, Webb had a great season. And I think there is another level to it, even though, he's still young. He's going to be 27 this year. They get better with age when it comes to pitching. Like Webb is just ready to unleash. The only difference between Fried and Webb is the win opportunity, right? Like, there isn't as strong as a team behind.
I only have Fried one spot higher.
Right. And there isn't as strong of a team behind Webb as there is Fried because, you don't have players like Acuna and Albies and everybody else on the team, Matt Olson, behind Fried like you do, like behind Webb like you do with Fried. And I understand that, but at the same time, like Fried, one, you have to build in his just the fact that he's been injured. Two, you have to build in the fact that like, okay, he's only been doing this for a couple years. Webb has just been like performing. So I look at it and I go, between the two, I'm going to pick Webb. I feel like this year may be the year you're just like, wow, okay, Webb might be a top 12 pitcher this year.
Where do you have Webb, Matt?
Currently, I have Webb 11.
Yeah, so you're pretty much they're close enough.
I have him 3 spots. Like,
yeah, but that's why I think this whole cluster is kind of important to pick your favorite. Like, Webb is a guy that Matt loves, and that's kind of why we are breaking all of these guys down, because I think you should at least have one of them. I think these specific 8 names are, is it 8 or 9? Did we add a 9th one? I don't even remember. But whatever, however many names it is, these are great names to definitely target. And as you know, Matt, you did a great job on Webb there. I really don't have too much to add. I just really do want to say that I think that when you are drafting, Fried, Webb, and Valdez are all kind of very similar guys. I feel like we know what we're going to get with them. They're all very quality pitchers. The ERA is going to be solid. None of them are really, K per 9 type of guys. They might have the upside to get close. But I don't think my personal opinion, I don't think any of them are going to get that K per 9. And then when it comes to whip, they're all pretty solid at that too. But let's move on to somebody who, if you have it, actually, before we move on to somebody else that is one of the most interesting names in baseball right now, we do have a quick ad for you guys.
The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use, and there's so many different ways to place a bet, like live same-game parlay, or find bets in the new Explore tab and make a parlay, or go to Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a touchdown. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right. Continue where you were at, Dom.
Yeah, so this next guy's an interesting case. We're going to talk about Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And Yamamoto is in this conversation because if you sort it by all the 200 plus drafts that have been done on NFBC since October 1st, Yamamoto falls right into this round, pick 66, right in the middle of the 6th round. But if you sort by since the day Yamamoto signed, which was, the end of December through today, it's been about 26 drafts, and Yamamoto's actually going at pick 49, which puts him at the top of round 5, almost the bottom of round 4. So Yamamoto's almost moved up a full round since he signed with the Dodgers, and that's why, saying with Blake Snell, when Matt was talking about Snell, maybe when Snell signs, maybe we see a similar type of leap for Snell. But honestly, Yamamoto is my favorite name out of all of these guys. I've gone as far as moving Yamamoto up to SP11. Honestly, I'm going to say he's SP11 in my rankings at the moment. I know it's a lot to ask from a guy who we haven't really seen in the MLB yet, but look at what Senga did last year. Look at a guy like, Masahiro Tanaka. We've seen guys with this elite, arsenal. The guy's got a great fastball, a good curveball. He throws a splitter. I think he's got like a five pitch mix. And I really think he's going to come over and absolutely dominate. And we're going to be drafting this guy, honestly, top 5 starting pitcher next year. He's going to strikeout machine. The Dodgers are going to do the right thing with him. He doesn't have to go there and, just be that guy. There's so many famous, players on the Dodgers that it's not going to be just all eyes on him. I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic. I love Yamamoto.
So I like Yamamoto. You said you had him, ranked 11, you said?
Yeah, I moved him up to 11 recently.
That is very rich for my blood.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. So I look at Yamamoto and I go, man, the kid has a lot of good stuff. And it's not like I'm burying the kid, but I don't think I'm going to say, hey, he's my SP1. Okay. I look at him and I go, okay, he's pitcher 16 for me. I moved him up. And I have him right below Pablo Lopez, right under Max Fried. But I think I'm bringing Max Fried down below the 2. So
real quick, Matt, since once again, I sorted since he was signed with the Dodgers, he's coming off the board as the SP10.
That's absurd.
In drafts. It is crazy. But in today's day and age, there's a saying I heard. I can't even give credit because I don't remember who said this, but maybe even 3-4 years ago, there's no such thing as a sleeper anymore. It doesn't exist, man. There's no not going to can't sleep on anybody. You kind of got to pay up for guys like this where we think the upside is.
See, but the thing is, I don't qualify him as a sleeper. I just look at him as a guy that just hasn't done it in the bigs, in the MLB. Okay, anybody could be fantastic in Japan. Not anybody. It's still a competitive ball league. Don't get me wrong.
What's his name? Eric Fetty, who went over there and dominated. He was trash here. Went over there. There's actually we'll talk about him at some point, but
yeah, you look at it okay, there's certain dudes that okay, you can go over there and mash, but I just look at it like this, there's still a different tier of talent. Even Senga, even though he finished the year really nice, he did have his struggles where the league did adjust, but Senga was able to then course correct and then adjust back to the league. Yeah, whereas I need to see Yamamoto do that before I could crown him as my SP1. Granted, this is my prediction for Yamamoto. He's going to have a fantastic April and mid-May and then get lit the hell up.
See, and it's funny that you say that. I thought the same thing about Senga last year. And so maybe that's why I'm going the other way with Yamamoto this year, because I was a little bit wrong about Senga last year. And I thought exactly what you're saying about Yamamoto is what I thought about Senga last year. So maybe that's why I'm just all right, I'm in.
But Senga, again, still had it. I mean, he still had a great season.
Yeah, he had a monster year.
Monster year. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he struggle a little bit as well? He had June where he got a 3.71 ERA. April, he actually had the bad ERA where a 4.15. He started off the year slow, then figured it out. There is the reason why the MLB is the best baseball league in the world is because of the talent that is just influxed into that league. So Yamamoto still has to prove himself. So to draft him as your SP1, I think is absurd. Now, if he could repeat what Kodai Senga did and then go, okay, boom, I got him for the whole, 3/4 of the season left. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I picked right. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
But
It's just like what I was saying is like this is a guy I feel like not even 10 years ago, but like as maybe like 6-7 years ago, that there's no way he would not have went this high in like the sense of where fantasy baseball has come as like just itself, where people are just on top of it. Everyone that's playing fantasy baseball is listening to a podcast or
well,
putting a little bit of effort in, and
well,
now
this
it
is
pushes a guy
also
like this, like when you hear the upside, it just pushes him up.
well, this is also the age of statistics. Like, I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many advanced statistics out there where
And
I
he's
could
got
throw.
great numbers. He's been a strikeout machine, under one whip almost every year of his career.
Sure.
Under 3 ERA type of guy.
Yeah, but like you also got to factor in too, like, okay, like I see all these statistics and hence why he deserves to be in this round. I just don't think he's an SP1. I don't
Yeah.
think you should feel confident walking out of the draft as your SP1. Like I think it's not safe. And
Yeah.
where I think the hype is going to go too far. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like Yamamoto is really good, but I don't think it's this factor. I think if anything, he's
Well,
going to be a
real quick, Matt,
fantastic buy low. Hold on, let me
go
finish,
ahead,
and then you
go
can
ahead, go
talk.
ahead.
I
No,
understand your hype.
no, I'm just saying we're running a little bit long here. That's all I was
Well, I mean, it's because you keep talking over me. But anyway, like every time I
now
talk,
Moto's a good topic, man. We could do a whole episode on him.
probably could. But let me just get this out.
Of course.
Yamamoto isn't somebody you want to build your whole rotation around. Yamamoto is a great supporting cast this year. You need him to prove it. The whole point of picking your SP1 is to solidify your rotation. So, like, for him to go as a pitcher 10, I think is absolutely ridiculous. And again, the hype is going to go too far. But if you're able to scoop him up in this round and then solidify all these bats before it, and then he's your first pitcher, then I'm totally okay with it. But if you're picking him earlier where the pitcher 10 is going, which is like the 4th round, don't you dare touch him. And just call it a day. Move on. MoveOn.com.
Fair enough. We'll kind of we'll leave it there, and there's going to be a lot more Yamamoto talk this off season. So let's try and speed run these last 4 guys here that are in this big cluster. The next one is Logan Gilbert. Logan Gilbert is somebody that I'm going to let Matt deep dive on, but well, maybe not deep dive, but we'll let Matt give you more than what I have to say. I like Logan Gilbert. I really thought he was going to take a big step forward next year, and he kind of took a step backwards in some ways, took a step forward in other ways. Very interesting season for the young Logan Gilbert. Pitched 190 innings, 3.73 ERA, 189 strikeouts, and a 107 whip. The whip looked a lot better. The control looked a lot better, but gave up a little bit more, home runs. And Seattle's a good park to pitch in too, so I could see this going back the other way for Logan Gilbert. I have Logan Gilbert currently as my SP33. So, targeting him as my SP3. If I can get him there, I really like it. I do think there is another level to the young Logan Gilbert, going to be 27 this year. I do like him. Maybe not the guy I'm targeting in this group, but I do like him.
No, and you know what? I completely hear that. Actually, I got him as my pitcher 25, so that would be my pitcher 3 as well, just a high-end pitcher 3. Logan Gilbert is somebody that if you looked at his stats based off of what Dom read, he literally had 5 more innings and had a half a run higher. Gave up 10 more home runs this year.
Yeah,
and
that was the problem.
And honestly, like, yes, I could see a positive regression in that category of home runs, and he's probably a whole run better possibly in that aspect. So, it's just a matter of which way the pendulum swings this season. Logan Gilbert by no means is somebody to snuff at or pass on. But again, he's in the lower of the bunch of these. Like a guy that's not even in this round that we're sneaking into this episode. Well, we're trying to sneak into this episode would be a Kodai Senga, who I would pick over Logan Gilbert because of the fact that of what Kodai Senga did last year. Logan Gilbert kind of took a step back. Now this year, I think there'll be a nice bounce back. But at the same time, they're just two different levels of talent. So Logan Gilbert next year, I think this year is going to be somewhat of a value. 6th round, my SP3 possibly, depending on how my construction is of my team. I'm happy with it, but I'm also not happy at the 6th round. I would prefer to get him in the 7th.
Yeah, I'm just well. Let's move on to this next guy. Let's talk about Grayson Rodriguez real quick. I love Grayson. Really had a tough start to the season last year, but his last 12 starts is where he really shined. 2.26 ERA. His last 12 starts, 71 innings, 69 strikeouts. Patterson 217 against him. After that, it's Kodai Senga, who just had a monster first year in the States, and I think he's going to have another. I have Senga as my SP13, so right on the cusp of being SP1. Really started to figure out that control in the second half, and then just Yuri Perez was the last guy here, going right outside of round 6, but pretty much right in there. Just another young guy, has a good breaking ball, strong fastball, big giant man. I love Yuri Perez as well. You need to walk away with at least one of these guys, and we're telling you that was the point of this episode. But guys, that's all for today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Until next time, guys. See you.